If you are going for English fluency, then your habits are exactly what gets you there.
We have heard so often from our students, what can we do? What can we do now to push us towards English fluency?
I'm reading, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm doing all the things, but I still am not fluent. What can I do?
Here are 5 little things that you can do on a regular basis to push you towards English fluency.
What's up, guys? Welcome to WaiGuo Friends English. We are big on creating an English learning lifestyle in order to reach English fluency. If you're not doing things in English, you're not going to reach fluency. Fluency is the ability to comfortably communicate in English spontaneously in everything to do with your day-to-day. So if you're not able to do that, it might be because you're not actually doing it.
These 5 little things that we're going to talk about today push you further towards comfortable, spontaneous English.
And the best part, you can start today.
So number 1 is talk out loud in English. So if you're around the house and you're just walking around, just try to start speaking out loud the things you see, vocabulary, or the things you're doing. And that will help you with your pronunciation, but it will also help you with that memorization and that repetition and the recall that it takes to actually communicate with somebody.
Yeah, you know these structures, you know process English, you know prepositions and stuff already in your mind, but the point is you need to be really producing it regularly. And so one of the best ways to do this is to actually start speaking to yourself about what you're doing, using phrasal verbs, using prepositions, and it will help you reach these questions that you have that normally just come up in conversation with a native speaker. How do I say this? As you go around the house and you're speaking, you're going to be wondering, which preposition do I use here? Do I go on a diet? Do I go in a diet? Like, which one is it, on or in? This will help you get these questions that you can write down or jot down really quick on your phone in your notes, or you can write it down in a paper somewhere. But the idea is you have something to look up next time you sit down to study.
We've said this before on this channel. You cannot just sit down and consume English and expect to be able to be fluent in English. You actually have to use that, and you run into a lot more problems using it than you just do consuming it.
And once you run into problems, you need to write them down so you know what to look up and research next. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be able to be aware of where your English is. You're not going to know what you struggle with. And you're not going to be able to identify what to study specifically in order to actually improve.
Number 2 is look up a word or phrase that you've heard in English and try to use it as often as possible this week.
Yes, this is a little bit unrealistic. You're not going to take takes one and no one. You're not going to be able to use that naturally 20 times in one day unless you're just being really annoying. It's still a phrase that as you're practicing with yourself, ideally you're doing this on your own. You're trying to practice it. Maybe you're thinking of a role play in your mind, or you're thinking of a situation in your past where you could have used this phrase. Just something like that. And ideally you're speaking it out loud. So you're getting used to the idea. You're getting used to the sound of yourself saying it. You're getting used to, okay, this is how I do it. I wonder if I can use it in that context. And then you can look it up. But these are one of the things that you need to be doing, is taking something and just really trying to just hammer it into your mind, hammer it into your use so that you can actually employ it.
Yeah, idioms, they kind of are strange because they take a little bit of extra effort to kind of pull them out of your language. Yeah, they take context, they take effort. And so the more you are trying to use them in the proper context, the faster they're going to come out in a natural context. So for example, I had a student recently said that she had studied a phrase, a dime a dozen, for a long time. She used it over and over and over again, and then for a span of 2 to 3 years, she never used it. We were talking with her and she was like, what is that phrase? What is that phrase? And then she was able to recall that phrase because she had used it so often before. Things recall faster after repetitive use.
In multiple ways, like you're writing it, you're speaking it, you're listening to it. The more angles from which you hear or say something, the better. Number 3 is to post a word of encouragement on your social media in English, which takes some bravery if you're an introvert like me.
Yes, but it's a good practice because it's a word of encouragement. So, I mean, you're making the space a bit more positive, but also you're likely to get a lot of positive reinforcement, right? If I say maybe something a little bit judgmental on social media, but I say it not properly, people are able to say, hey, you made that mistake here, or hey, you made that mistake here. But if it's a word of encouragement, people aren't really going to argue with my bad Chinese or my bad Spanish. They're going to be like, hey, thanks. And then you get this positive reinforcement of, hey, I just did it.
Yes.
I spoke English out into the whole wide world, and I got positive reinforcement for it.
Even if you don't get positive reinforcement, it's taking that step. Taking that step to take this English that you've been working on, that you want to improve, and push it out there. Get it out there in front of people, because the point of language is to communicate. And so if you're not making yourself take those steps, you're going to have a hard time getting there. Even if you know what to say and how to say it, you might keep it to yourself until it's perfect. So for all of you perfectionists out there, make sure that you're getting out there. Getting it done, putting it out there is more important than making it absolutely perfect in this case.
The fourth one is just sit still for 5 minutes or maybe a little longer and reflect on what you're thankful for.
I don't have time for that.
We are so busy that we often don't take time to think about things that have happened in our day. But if we do this, we lose a really valuable opportunity to reflect and recognize and reinforce some of the amazing things that have happened that day and how we can express that in English.
And moreover, being thankful is a big part of American culture. We are, generally speaking, a fairly polite culture. Day to day, you're going to say thank you dozens of times if you are at work or if you're ordering food or a waitress brings you your food or whatever. You're going to be saying thank you. But thank you is an easy thing to say. There are many ways to say thank you, like thanks a million, thanks a ton, thanks a bunch, thank you so much, I'm so grateful for, I really appreciate it. There's so many ways to say thank you and express thank you in English. But one of the ways that you can really practice wielding all of those and trying to choose which one to use is to do it with yourself, to do it in your mind. And it gets your mind accustomed to it so that you start saying it faster and better. But specifically, try to vary what you're saying. I am so thankful for this because of this. The more specific you are, the more meaningful it is to us, because thank you is a big part of our culture. So the more specific you are in saying what exactly you are grateful for, but also the different ways that you say it. You don't want to just say like 3 or 4 thank you phrases and just have those memorized and only use those. You need to be expressing it in other ways and in different means, using different adjectives. You can use different adverbs to express the degree to which you are thankful for something. All of that can be practiced very well in your mind as you reflect on the day. And it's also a positive thing to do in English. Hopefully you're learning English to build others up and to connect meaningfully with others. Expressing gratefulness is a great way to do that. So to help your mind state, it's good for you to be thinking in English. It's good to generate that habit in your mind of thankfulness, but also it is a great exercise in terms of grammar and culture.
And number 5 is to make a list or write out a plan in English, which I do not like.
But it's great for your process English, right? If you think about it, writing out while you are speaking to yourself about planning things out, or you can think in your mind as well. This could be a thinking exercise. You can mix it up. But as you plan out your week, it is really helpful for your adverbs of time and for your prepositions of time to be using order terms, to be putting things in orders or sequences and explaining why you are doing that. If you think about it, that is a fantastic exercise to be doing in English. So if you can make the time to sit down for 10 minutes at the beginning of your week or at the end of the last week and just plan out what needs to happen the next week, even if you don't really need it because you don't have a whole lot going on that week, the idea is going through the exercise and doing it in a very planned way, in a way that's very relatable to your life now.
Yeah, it's a way to kind of take English and like to put it on top of your life now, making it practical so that you can be able to see your life in English. Like from a very book perspective, from a Google Sheet perspective, you can see this is my life in English. And even if it's the same things that you were doing before, like washing the dishes or vacuuming out the car, you can see it in English.
Yes. At the very least, if you hate schedules for whatever reason, you can definitely make just lists of things that you need to do and explain to yourself why you need to do them and in what order you need to do them. Use your transition phrases in here. The point is using English and trying to make it practical for yourself. And also just getting to the place where you have the ability to talk to somebody else about it. You're trying to find out in your schedules what can happen where, then that's a great way to practice. It's an excellent way to practice. So utilize that. Wield that well, because you can do it on your own. You can do it with another person.
We have a bonus for you today, which is a very simple but difficult to implement thing that you can do today, which is change all of the settings on all of your devices into English.
Ooh, we know this is hard and it's not always practical if you are working and you are in technology or something, you need to be able to move fast. We get that. Once you get home, switch them over. The point is if you are not using English practically, then you're not going to be able to use it practically. I don't know how else to put that. If you are having trouble understanding computer settings and such as like that in English, or daily things like getting around on your phone in English, if you're having trouble with that, you need to be going through that struggle so that you can get to the end. Now, if you are a low intermediate, I do not suggest doing this. If you're an intermediate, probably shouldn't be doing it either. But if you are an advanced speaker, you should absolutely have your phone settings in English so that you can be engaging with it regularly, getting accustomed to it, so that if you move here or if you get a job here or if you get some kind of thing where you're going to be using English daily and you're going to have to know those terms anyway, you should be doing that now already.
I think some people would argue back, why do I need to learn about vocabulary words like screen resolution or contrast or RGB, things that are very setting oriented? Why do I need to learn that if I'm never going to use that? The goal is not to learn vocabulary that you will never use. The goal is to be pushed into an area where you don't have a backup, where you have to have your English, and that is what it is. It's hard. It's not restful by any means, but it is a way that you can kind of fabricate in a small way, living in another country, living in an English-speaking country where you don't have the option. You don't have the option to just change a person's language into Chinese or into Spanish or whatever your L1 is. They speak English, and that's all they speak. And that's a good way. It's a fast way. It's an efficient way to push you towards fluency.
So that's it for today, guys. These are 6 little things that you can do today to start working toward English. And you don't have to do all of them at the same time. You can do one at a time and slowly implement it over time. But the point is that every little thing that you do should be pushing you toward a goal. It's either pushing you away from English or toward English or just leaving you stagnant in the middle. So make sure that you're changing these little things every day so that you can slowly grow into an English language lifestyle.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither is English fluency. So change the small things. You'd be surprised how far it gets you years down the road.
Yep. All right, guys. That's it for us this week. We'll catch you on the next one.